Have you ever wanted to take your visualizations to the max and really do something extraordinary with them? Maybe you've tried visualization, you know it's incredibly powerful. All world champions, athletes to entrepreneurs are doing something special with their visualization process. Most of them are not conscious of what it actually is. But if you're interested in this and you want to quantum leap your visualization process, this video is for you. I'm going to show you in the next few minutes the actual modeled visualization process. It's actually very simple. It's 3 things and 7 super catalysts or activators. And when you do these, they make extraordinary things happen. It's a way to quantum leap your visualization process. I guarantee if you do this, I've never had a client do this and not experience some significant positive shifts. But more importantly, you will have a master's formula for creating your future, and you'll have a whole new respect for visualization. The truth is, you probably never learned how the best of the best do it. And in this video, I'm going to show you the how-to of exactly how they do it. So stick around, pay close attention, and you may want to take some notes because this one is a game changer. Hey, if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Alexander Van Buren. I'm president and CEO of Skill Builder Seminars, and I own the Alexander Speakers Bureau. For years, my specialty really is to help people up-level their own map of the world, especially owners and entrepreneurs, so that they can start experiencing a whole new level of possibility, capability, worthiness, skill sets, and do it at the unconscious level, meaning identify patterns that they're not aware of that are holding them back, and identify opportunities they're not aware of that would be extraordinary. And I do that with an elegant coaching process, and now I'm starting to put a lot of these processes and things here on YouTube in my new YouTube channel. So welcome. Thanks for being here. You know, before we dive in, I'd like to tell you where this special formula comes from, because this really is a formula. I want to give you a quick snapshot of how it evolved and why you should really pay attention to it, what puts it above other processes. So if you've watched any of my videos, you know I'm one of the world's foremost behavioral modelers. That means, you know, big companies have hired me to model their top people, and there are very few people around the world that actually do that. And I have specialized in modeling for a long, long time. And my very first behavioral modeling project, about 30 years ago, I decided to do behavioral modeling, and I decided to model creativity. So I was just new to this, and I read Da Vinci's notebooks every single day for 2 years. That was the project. I also did some other things with it, modeled Disney's actual process, Peter Drucker's concepts on innovation. It didn't turn me into a genius, but I changed. And it's why I've been doing formal macro modeling projects and became a behavioral modeler, because of the first project. What happened was, well, creativity started pouring out of me. It was so noticeable. But I started to dream in color, but more importantly, in multiple perceptual positions. My dreams changed, and I knew something was going on. I also became spontaneously ambidextrous. I thought, whoa. And I mean, this was not expected, and it really rocked my world. Da Vinci never saw anything from one point of view. You can read some of his notebooks. They're actually translated from the Italian into English. So I'm weaving in some of the elements of that modeling project into this formula for you. The second one is, years later, I came across something that was an article, some writings that Tom Watson had done, the founder of IBM. And Watson had this amazing visionary process he used to create IBM, and I've weaved that in. And finally, I often model world-class athletes. I've come to respect them incredibly because I'll let you know a secret. Probably the most high-performing, in 30 years of coaching, the highest-performing person I ever coached was an athlete, and he was better at stuff than CEOs are. And the way they do team and the way they just follow instructions, and they just, are disciplined, and it's amazing. Well, we can take a lot of those things athletes do and model them. Of course, they're terrific for business and other contexts. So years ago, I was looking for somebody who had the highest level mental game in sports, and I came across a guy named Tom Platz. Platz was at that time, of course, he's a world-class bodybuilder, winning a bodybuilder. I'm not a bodybuilder. I was interested in his mental game. Back then, I read something that said, even Arnold Schwarzenegger says Platz is number one in the mental game, something like that. And I said, wow, because back then that was when Arnold was winning all the Mr. Olympia. He's the best of the best, right? At that time, really an amazing champion. So for him to say that, like, I dove into Platz's insights. I'm going to give you some of the exact key processes there. Plus, in modeling people over the years, like, I go in and I'll always ask the best salesperson or the best referral getter, whoever I'm modeling, best executive that I've been hired to model, what do you do in your visualizations? What's your mental game? What's your morning routine like? And I get the structural components. So this has evolved over years, and I finally codified it into one formula. Then I started doing it, teaching it, and that's why I said I've never had anybody who really did it not get some pretty astonishing results and shifts. So that's where it comes from. I want you to know that's why I believe it really stands out. There's one other thing I'd like you to really know. One of the phrases I memorized when I became a professional behavioral model to elicit the actual structure, the how-to of how somebody does something, and codify it into a recipe so that it can be taught and that other people can duplicate the results with exquisite precision. The phrase that I memorized was, you take the model and you hone it down to, quote, the minimum number of distinctions necessary to reproduce the result. So what that means is, once you have models you have all these distinctions, there are thousands of insights, probably videos about visualization. The secret of creating a recipe that's world-class, right, that you can cook up, so to speak, and recreate the original result, is to hone out everything, cut the fat, as I like to say. What are the minimum things you need to do? And man, that makes the lock open. Well, that's part of my process. So in these 3 things that I want you to do every day, I'm going to suggest every day, just these 3 things, and then the 7 activators. That's the formula. So that's where it comes from. And I hope that gives you a little oomph in terms of maybe diving in here and really giving this a go. So let's get started. This visualization formula is 3 things that you do every day. And the first one is to visualize your success. Visualize yourself attaining a goal or a desire. Now, this can also be visualize the ultimate vision of your company, like Tom Watson did. He would visualize what he wanted IBM to be, and then he'd walk into every room, as he said, and he would kind of compare, and then what do we need to do to be acting like that kind of a company? So the first secret of doing this is consistently every day, you need to program your subconscious mind for success for just 15 minutes a day. And I'll talk about more of the logistics down below in the 7 catalysts. But the first one is every day you need to say to your subconscious mind like this. That's what visualization is doing. The subconscious mind, which of course we know is linked to the superconscious mind, is the gateway. So, but it's our job to consistently say like this. So you need to every day imagine success, succeeding at a goal or a vision. And Platz, for example, would imagine winning Mr. Olympia or whatever the contests were, signing his autograph, Mr. Olympia, and basically stepping up and receiving the trophy. He actually said at one point, check this out, I will have won that trophy so many times in my imagination before it actually happens that when I actually win it and I step up and receive it, it's like a mere formality, something like that. And when I read that, when I was modeling it, I said, that's it. You live your future, your desired future in advance, even if just for a few seconds. But in your 15 minutes, that's the minimum. I'm going to tell you, I'll get to that later. You're going to have to commit here. You're not going to, this won't succeed if you do it once or twice. This is something you do to condition your subconscious. You need to say like this. Now, a couple keys here. You step in and you feel the winning feeling. This takes practice, but let me tell you, it's not only tremendously enjoyable, it really feels good, but you get better and better and better at it. And pretty soon your unconscious mind will just start going there, and you want to associate into that winning feeling. It can just be a few scenes. It doesn't have to be a whole movie. Maybe you see yourself closing a terrific sale and that amount of money coming in. Maybe you see yourself, attaining a certain position. As entrepreneurs, we have endless choices here, but get specific. You want to maybe see your company at the next level, that, with a bigger, better team, something maybe you're struggling with, pinpoint it. And then what would it look like fulfilled really, really well in an amazing way? Remember, you want to kind of idealize it. So the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between reality and fantasy. It can't tell the difference if the imagined fantasy is imagined well enough, realistically enough. So that is actually the magical principle, I like to call it, that is so extraordinary. Think of that. I don't like the phrases about, fool your subconscious mind. I don't think we need to fool it. This is how it's built to work. But we do have to say to it like this. So step one, and this is so important, you consistently, every day, see your desired future in advance, idealize you're winning, you're succeeding. You see the reward, the stuff that feels good. Maybe you're meeting certain people, and imagine them responding the way you want. It's a dream future. You need to set your, rational mind aside. Well, yeah, but there's no explanation. You're not saying this is going to happen. So your subconscious mind, right, your critical area can't resist and say, well, we're not saying it's going to happen. Check this out. You're saying like this, I'm imagining what I want to happen. How can your left brain over rationalized, oh my goodness, are we left brain in this culture? How can it object? You don't want to say this is going to happen. It's a must. That causes the critical area to kick in. We don't want that. We just want to imagine it like this. Wouldn't it be wonderful if this happened? This is how I'd love it to happen. What can we argue with on that? So you stay in there, you do it consistently. It's dreamy. You feel the feeling of it, and think about it. Even Da Vinci did this kind of thing. He imagined things in the future. Remember, he invented if you've ever seen the drawings of his helicopter, I think it had a spiral thing on the top of it. He invented the helicopter like 1,000 years or 1,200 years before it ever came out. I mean, it's astonishing. That's what you call ahead of your time. So, but he was imagining a future, an idealized future. So this is the first essential thing. If your subconscious mind, check it out, is actually waiting for you to give it the direction, and it processes on images and symbols, that's its language. Words help, especially when they create images and symbols. But the right brain, sometimes called the right brain or creative side of our functioning, works on images and symbols. This is why visualization is so powerful. And it will, in a way, some magical way, it's not really magic, but it means anything's possible. It will start creating what it accepts. And it will start accepting this future. If that's true, and I absolutely believe it is, it's incumbent on us to get serious and consistently put in what we want over and over. This is number one. If you do nothing else, do this consistently. The second and third things will increase it, make it multidimensional. And then the 7 catalysts and activators are things we really have to do to make it all come alive. So number one, here's your mission. Pick a few dreamy futures, I recommend a few chunk sizes. Don't just pick your big vision because sometimes that can be overwhelming. You want to glimpse and take a quick look at your dream future. Have a picture of it, but don't dwell on it too long because you'll be inspired, but it can be overwhelming. You got to be careful because there's no way to do it in 20 minutes. So imagine some wins. Notice that, for example, Platts imagined winning a contest. That makes him a champion, feel like a champion bodybuilder. Okay. Remember, it's not about bodybuilding. It's the structure of visualization. But notice, he didn't imagine something so big, like just being a big fan, champion bodybuilder. He imagined winning like an intermediate thing that he can actually prepare for. That's the key. Imagining a company you want to build, like a legacy business, is terrific. But also imagine a medium-sized step, maybe another one that's very inspiring that you could actually work towards. Okay, there you have it. This is the first part of your 15-minute daily visualization. The second thing you want to visualize every single day, remember, it's just three things. The first is that winning success. You experience it in your imagination in advance of it actually happening. The second thing is what I call the causal factors. Now, let me just tell you how some world-class entrepreneurs did this, and athletes and so on. So I've used some of the examples from the people I've modeled this process from. So world-class business owners, people getting amazing results, will imagine themselves doing the things that cause their success. An example is, I once modeled a woman who was so good with money that I thought, I got to get some of her patterns. Like, she's really good. She's had a gift. So I said, well, what do you do? She said, well, I always, whenever I get money in, I divide it into 4 different accounts. And good money management is just taking the money making and first dividing it out and planning it out. That's managing your money. And I said, well, it turned out that she imagined herself doing this, and that made her feel like a good money manager, gave her control of her money. Well, she imagined herself doing it, and then she started doing it. Platts, for example, and this applies to all athletics, he said he visualized 2 things every day at the time when I read about him. He said one was winning the contests. I've talked about that. But the second one was he always visualized what he called his super productive workout. Well, translate that. That's the cause of winning the contests. So I quickly realized it's the outcome and the process that causes it to happen, causal factors. So, for example, in entrepreneurship, visualize your goals in your business coming true, a few of them. Then visualize your super productive day, doing things that you know, to the best of your ability, cause you, the central drivers that cause you to fulfill those goals. Now you're saying to your subconscious mind, like this, and I'm doing these things that make it happen. And I'm doing it at a peak performance level. Remember, for example, Platts didn't imagine, hey, here's my workout. It was his super productive, awesome workout in detail, right? With the feeling and every muscle and all that stuff. Well, you want to get as detailed as you can, but any direction toward the causal factors. So here's what I want you to do. Slow down for a minute, okay? Because in a master formula, you want to get the keys. You get the first part. The second part is identify a few causal factors that make all the difference in moving the needle forward. We've all heard that phrase nowadays. It's a good one. What really do you need to do? Do you need to do your sales process? Do you need to build a sales funnel? Do you need to hire some new people? So you imagine having hired them, having brought them on, they're fantastic. Then you see them fulfilling and overproducing in the role that you hired them for, and you're so thrilled. Now that's the ideal outcome as an example. Now visualize yourself doing the things for hiring that person, this new A player. So What are those things? Maybe you see yourself writing out the success formula for that position, talking with your team. What traits do you think we need to hire for? Writing it all up, putting it online, maybe getting your web developer to put it online. So there's a great success page on the position and a form they can fill out, or whatever your hiring process is. Maybe you go on to one of the hiring formula platforms and you list the job. Those are things you do that make it happen. See yourself doing those at an optimum level. Remember, your highly productive day, super productive day. Remember, the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between reality and fantasy. So don't imagine a productive day. That's not good enough. All right? Imagine a phenomenal day, because your subconscious mind goes, okay, it doesn't know any limitations. It doesn't have any time frame. It doesn't take a joke. It's literal. Be careful. Don't joke around with your subconscious mind. It's literal. It has no sense of humor, okay? And no morality. Morality's in the conscious mind. No morality. It's amoral, right? You can program your subconscious mind to do negative things. It won't make the judgment. That's a conscious function. So we've got a good moral, ethical. These are good goals, right? Ecological, ideally. Now you've imagined it happening. Now imagine the core key things that make it happen, that cause it to happen. Here's another tip. Every day I imagine the first part, and then I imagine an incredible day, super productive. You can run through it in as much detail as you like. Into the evening, I even imagine doing evening, productive activities. Imagine your day outstanding. Leave a little bit of space for some surprises, or for the universe to make it even better than you imagined, that kind of thing. This conditions your subconscious mind to start seeing you as the kind of person who creates that. That was step one. This shifts your self-image, your feelings of capability, your confidence in being able to do it. I can't even tell you the shifts that happen. You've just got to do it consistently. So this is step two. Imagine the causal factors, the things like the workout causes you to get a better physique or figure, right? Well, the workout's a causal factor. Not too many. What are the core ones? See yourself doing that optimally, just for a minute or so or two in your 15-minute session. This is step two. The third thing to do in your daily visualizations is the piece de resistance. After you've imagined your goal, ideally it's coming true in amazing ways, and you're getting the wonderful benefits, the stuff that really excites you, and you're experiencing and living that for a little bit of time in advance of it actually happening, like this. Secondly, you imagine you doing things that cause that to happen. The third piece is that essentially, deep down, sometimes we have habits or traits that get in the way. So what I found is an incredible thing to visualize is one trait that would make the difference on those things. Do you need to get up and get going sooner? Do you need to complete things? I would recommend listing, and I have separate videos on this, and I do a lot of coaching on this, trait enhancing and building into the self-image and so on and so forth. I recommend you write down, some of the things you're struggling with in terms of getting started, completing, doing the important things, finding the time. Every entrepreneur, I think, has some of these things. We all have them. And it's okay. Remember, no blame. Just list them. They're just processes. Put them down on a page. Then pick one. You can ask yourself, which one, if I conquered this one totally and did the opposite of it, say you put off important things, you start doing important things first, right? What if I wasn't procrastinating, or I was procrastinating on the unimportant things? Like, it reverses. So your procrastination now becomes an asset because you're putting off the unimportant things. And now, right, you imagine the opposite. So for example, if you're procrastinating, do that, look these over, and just pick one. It's important to have a singular focus. In a sense, the best way I can describe this is you're actually finding the single trait, deep down habit core pattern that is your personal constraint in many ways. In other words, one habit of yours, one pattern could be holding a lot of things back. So you want to identify it, but we're going to take it a step further. So the third step is, this takes a little prep. Well, all of them do. Like step one, for example, you have to imagine these goals, maybe the vision for your company. You got to really get clear on those. Two, you need to know those activities you do that'll really move the needle forward, and you visualize yourself doing those. The third one, you have to do a little bit of setup too. So please take the time to do that. Find the one trait that if you did it would make the biggest difference. And look at your weak traits. Let's just be straight up. You got to look at where you haven't been paying attention. One of my favorite lines that was from one of Donald Trump's books. I model people on the left and the right, so I can quote Bill Gates and Trump. So I don't make any, when it comes to modeling, I'll model anybody who's phenomenal. And Trump once wrote something that I'll always remember. He said, I ask myself this question: what am I pretending not to see? And I wrote that down and went, wow, that's never gone through my brain before. Those words, what am I pretending not to see? So thank you, Donald Trump, Mr. President now. That's phenomenal. That's tough, right? You got to look at yourself. And to say pretend, what am I pretending? You're kind of calling your own bluff, So I love that question. I ask it a lot. What am I pretending not to see? Look at your traits, your habits, and your bad habits. What am I pretending not to see? What one would make the biggest difference? And pinpoint one. Now, here's what you do with it. You probably know by now, but after you've done these first two parts, it's important that you step in and you imagine yourself doing the new trait impeccably. Remember, you're just imagining it. You're not claiming that you're this way already. You're just saying, this is what I'd look like if I were doing this new trait phenomenally. There's no argument from the rational mind because, okay, that's what it would look like. So that's important. You see yourself living and acting out that trait in your imagination first before it'll actually happen in the real world. What you want to happen, you imagine happening first on three levels. Ideal accomplishment, the causal factors that make it happen, the activities you'll do or your team will do, you can even see that. And third, the trait that will make the biggest difference to help these other two. So that's the third component that you include. Just imagine yourself for a few minutes every day. I do this every day. Living that one trait that you found will make the biggest difference, doing it exquisitely, see yourself acting it out, how other people are responding. It's just dreamy. And again, it feels really great. There you are doing it. And that is the third component. Now I'm going to show you the 7 activators that are essential to do if you want to take these 3 keys and set them on fire. Here they are. Okay, here are 7 amplifiers or super catalysts that actually are requirements for making visualization work. Again, these are modeled. They're the things that if you do them consistently, I recommend you just weave them into those 3 things, those 3 parts of your daily visualization. It catalyzes the results. In fact, I would say after cutting out all the other things, these are the 7 things that bring visualization alive and make it become magical. And anything is possible. I can't say what it is. You can't say what it is. I want to inspire you to use all 7 of these and play with them as you do this 3-part visualization I've laid out. Number 1 is that you must visualize for 15 minutes every single day over some time. It takes a little while. Don't do less than 15 minutes. You got to commit to this. And the other thing is, like most people do a couple of minutes, that's okay. But when you set aside some time, it's only 15 minutes, and it's best to do it quiet, where you can do it right before sleep. And that's an ideal time first thing in the morning. I personally love both, but you've got to pick a time, 15 minutes, and you've got to do it over some time. So over the next couple months, do this practice because that's about how long it takes to really strongly condition your subconscious mind for success. If we could visualize something and it quickly came true, it would be a disaster. Think about it. Mother Nature, or whatever we call it, has built in a success protection formula. Think about it. If we visualize something and it immediately started happening, the slightest negative visualization would cause negative things to happen. So that would be disastrous. So thank goodness nature put in a protective mechanism. If we visualize consistently over time, now the subconscious says, okay, it's actually a law of suggestibility. It's like going to the gym. I used Platts as an example. That's kind of high level gym work, but the idea is I could teach you the perfect workout. The greatest trainers in the world get together. We all teach you the ultimate workout, but it's useless to you if you don't do it on a regular basis. If you did it 2 or 3 times, then you just stopped. Useless. If you did it once a week, well, most people would say probably 3 times a week's minimum. So do you get it? There's a minimum number of quantity we have to meet. That I can't change that. Daily, 15 minutes over time. That's it. That's how the best athletes, the best entrepreneurs, even people visualizing at the world-class level I have modeled, who will reveal that to me and they were not even conscious they were doing it, meaning they just did it while they were having coffee. They're visualizing it. Oh, I guess I do that. Meaning they're so subconsciously or unconsciously competent that they couldn't even tell you they do it. But in modeling them, I hear it in their language. They're doing it. So here it is. Key number 1, 15 minutes minimum. Just go for that long every single day over time. Remember, it's a super enjoyable experience. So it's your 15 minutes. That's key catalyst number 1. Number 2 is that you want to associate into those images on all 3, the dream outcome, succeeding, the causal factors, your super productive day, and the number 1 trait. You actually want to have both a dissociated and associated point of view. What's that mean? Really quickly, dissociated means you're seeing yourself over there like on a movie screen. So you're removed. It takes out the emotion. Many people don't know that. But it's really good for analyzing your videos. Does that look, your internal videos and movies, does that look good? You can even check ecology on something like that. Will that create any problems? Okay, good. Now, once it feels right, then step in and look out your eyes, hear what you hear, see what you see, feel it in your body. I can't tell you how many world-class athletes, visualizers will talk to me about how they feel it in advance, right? Remember that amazing observation by Platts. He said, I've already won the contest so many times. When actually, in my imagination, when I actually win it, it's like a mere formality. He's already felt the feeling of winning. So that's what you want to send to your nervous system, to your subconscious. So that comes only from associating, meaning step into that you in the movie and be there. Look out your eyes and see it first person. Now you're in the movie, so to speak. So catalyst number 2 is that use both dissociated and associated, but emphasize on all 3 of those components that I've laid out, associating. You got to go in and feel it in your body. It kickstarts all the emotions. Okay? That's number 2. Catalyst number 3 is that you want to imagine optimal performance, like perfect performance. I hinted at this up above, but I want to emphasize this. You want to get into the habit in all your visualizations of seeing yourself performing optimally, ideally, like off the scale, like almost perfect. Just imagine doing it phenomenally. Remember, it's important to say to yourself, this is what it would look like if I were doing it just beautifully. Not, this is how I do it. Because then if you say the second one, remember the rational mind can go, well, that's not how you're doing it, So you just say, I'm just imagining it. So it gets no argument from the critical area of the mind. This is really important. So you want to get into the habit of imagining yourself performing optimally. We don't always do this. We'll see ourselves doing okay. Be careful in your visualizations that you don't see troubles and things. Stop. See it perfect. See it ideal. This is wonderful. Here I am performing beautifully. Here's the outcome succeeded beyond my imagination. Here I am living the trait, right? Phenomenally. So idealize your visualizations and get used to doing that and calibrate. This is another real secret. Calibrate to where you actually are judging, did it feel realistic? Like, was there any, nah, that's not going to happen because then it wasn't done right, right? We want to say, yeah, it could happen. Like, well, there it is, ideally. Meaning it just feels great and you actually feel what it's like to do ideal performance to, right, on this level. Do you feel that? Because that's the test. If you don't, it can mean that your left brain, your logic is debating it, is saying no. So you want to change the suggestions that you're using. This is the ideal picture. You're not saying it will happen, going to happen. I want to repeat it. It's so key because if there's too much analysis, it interrupts the whole process. You want to imagine it ideally and think that would be wonderful. Okay, that's it. Okay, catalyst and activator number 4 is to write down your visualizations. Now, you don't have to write down every one of them and track every one. What I'm saying is write down your process. And in other words, don't expect yourself to remember all of this. If I can, I'll add a downloadable one-pager I use and things for this visualization process. The idea is lay out your steps on a piece of paper. So when you wake up in the morning, maybe in the evening when your mind's on something else, when you're going to do it, you have a template to guide you through the process. You shouldn't have to think up, what do I imagine next? It should just be laid out there for you. And you can make some notes, like what have I learned? What am I doing better? Little things. You may want to keep a notebook. As you know, probably if you watch my videos, I'm a huge believer in notebooks. Learned that from Da Vinci. He carried a notebook everywhere. And so I got that from him. I carry one everywhere. Dictaphone, notebook, phone notes, whatever you do. But the idea is really don't expect yourself to have to remember it all every time you sit down. Give yourself a go-to, like a template, cheat sheet, so you can just get up and running and do 15 minutes of visualization. As soon as you sit down, you relax, you breathe a little bit, bam, you're in there. Okay, so this secret is really just about speed. And the best way to do that is get it down somewhere so you don't have to rethink the process each time you do it. Catalyst number 5 is one of my favorites. Add sound. And there are a couple types of sound you can add that most people don't know about. First, just add some positive phrases like, remember some of my favorites I've already mentioned, but they're like this. You say, like this, like, how wonderful it would be if this were happening. And then pretty soon, like, yes, like this is happening, like that kind of thing. This just takes you into a suspended time zone. And it's really what we're doing here. The other sound that is off the scale is simply to grab a soundtrack that you like. I've done this for years, and create your visualization to the soundtrack. And so what happens is you're timing the structure of your visualization to one piece of music, to a song. I have several. And what happens is at one point, you practice it a few times, you just play the song, and the song guides you through your visualization. And it feels fabulous because you like the song. This is a huge secret in visualization. It just makes it flow. Bodybuilders, since I mentioned Platz, kind of a super mental game expert in bodybuilding, of course, bodybuilders would imagine their posing routine. So Platz talked about, he's a world-class visualizer. He talked about imagining his posing routine, and whether or not the music would come on or not, if it didn't come on, sometimes he would play it or imagine hearing it. And I don't recall what it was, but think about it. The music becomes an anchor for the entire visualization process. He's not the only one that's done that. Other world-class athletes do this. Remember, sound becomes another super catalyst for the images, and it helps trigger the feelings. So we make the pictures, but the sound can bring them alive. So this catalyst is all about adding sound intentionally, deliberately. I can't tell you how powerful it is to grab a piece of music, one song, 2.5 minutes long, and build a visualization to every part of it, including the crescendos, and then sketch it out on paper. And then when you do your visualizations, I have a song that's like 2.5 minutes. Listen to it 3 or 4 times in a row with a pause in between, and you're done. You've repeated the visualization, and then you can do a kind of a send off at the very end. So that's just one way to do it. But add some sound. It takes things to the next level. Catalyst number 6, you've probably heard of, but it makes such a big difference that I would feel negligent if I didn't mention this. We know that when we're in a more physically relaxed state, when our muscles are more relaxed, our mind is more at ease, the subconscious mind receives messages, amplified manyfold. It's much more suggestible, but simple relaxation. You don't have to go into hypnosis or anything unless you wanted to. Just the act of being deliberately extra relaxed, both mentally and physically, will have an amplifying effect on every visualization session you ever do. So this is really simple. For every session you do, remember there are 3 visualizations you do, and adding these 7 components, right? This one, the thing to do is create the ritual that when you do your visualizations, you do that 15 minutes, always spend 1 minute, breathing, centering, saying, just let the day go. If you do it in the morning, sometimes it's easier. Just depends on your day and your routine. In the evening, you kind of have to let go of your day. You have to get into a quiet place. Notice I mentioned relax physically. So you can do, a progressive relaxation, or just kind of go to different body parts and feel them relax, feel heavy. And you can affirm that for each body part. Breathe. You can just breathe for a minute or so. If you really are tense, things are going to take 2 minutes out of your 15 minutes. It really can help. So physically relax on the, focus on the muscles and get a position where you're really relaxed. You can do this lying down, but if you fall asleep, sit yourself up a little. And you can actually doing it lying up. Meditators will tell you want to keep your spine straight. So you can do it sitting up like that. I've done that. So long as you don't fall asleep, it's best to keep your neck unsupported, your head, so that, because if your head's supported by a pillow, you can fall asleep. So you want to keep it so that, you have to stay in that hypnagogic zone, right? So physical relaxation, mentally, you want to make sure to tell your mind to let go, okay? No work, no memories, no goals right now, just relax. And you can also focus on a point, focus on your breathing. Buddhists are phenomenal at meditating. The Buddha prescribed more than 40 meditations, in case you didn't know. And a lot of them are, one of the ways you calm and steady the mind, according to these great meditating masters, is you focus it. But you focus it on your breathing, right? Or a mantra, affirm something. And what happens is by focusing it just gently, in and around it, and you just bring it back for a minute or so, you're not putting it out on any of these other distractions. And if you practice this, you can still the mind very quickly. So pick your own ways to do this, but I recommend highly to apply this number 6, I believe, catalyst. You always start your sessions with a 1 minute relaxation, minimum 1 minute. Do it as a ritual because you know the principle. This will multiply the effects of your visualizations many, many fold. The 7th and final catalyst that makes visualizations become extraordinary is something almost never taught. It's hard to even come across it, but here it is. Evolve your visualizations. Now, the way you evolve them is you don't change the intention, right? Those goals and the vision for your company or your family or whatever it is, right? You don't change any of that, but you evolve the videos, the movies you're seeing, and yet there are different ways to achieve these same things. For example, The third part is to imagine yourself living and demonstrating one trait. So see yourself fulfilling it and living it in multiple ways. In the old days, there were things in the movies called, I think, cliffhangers. And the name came from, I think, the old Westerns or the old first series on television. Literally, our hero would be hanging from a cliff and they would end the episode. Like, tune in next week and see your hero, get off escape from the cliff, So they called them cliffhangers. They'd always leave you hanging. Well, the idea is think about it. You still have the same hero. He or she has still got their superpowers there, right? But we could make 1,000 episodes where they're succeeding, right? So look at the deep down principle. Here's why this is so powerful. The reason people don't succeed in visualization, there are several, but one of them is, and even affirmations, is the mind gets bored. Like with one affirmation, the mind gets bored, so we stop saying it. I won't go into that on this video because this is about visualization, but it's the same with visualizations. If you think you can visualize the same thing every day and not get bored, that's actually a misunderstanding of how the subconscious mind works and the conscious mind. But this is a solution. This is why I love this last catalyst. Take the 1, 2, and 3 elements I've described in every visualization and do them in new, innovative ways every time, but keep the same outcomes, keep the same winningness, keep the same, right? Keep the same vision, but all kinds of ways, all kinds of things, and constantly make your visualizations evolve. What's the next step in the trade? What's the next step in the trade? How are they reacting in the trade? And you could make 100 little internal movies of you living that trade or doing the causal outcome, having your optimum day, high performance day, and all of them lead toward the achievement of your bigger goals and visions, but all of them would be different. You're making your own mini-series, cliffhangers, if you will, meaning every one is different, but you succeed. So that is number 7. And that completes all of these components that if you weave them into your 3 visualizations, they will cause astonishing things to happen. The only thing you'll actually have to do after this, the only other thing I recommend is, and I'm serious about this, stay awake and aware and pay attention to what shows up, how life is responding. One of the greatest secrets I've ever learned is that we are constantly in communication with the universe. That's just how I say it. But it's true, and it's a two-way conversation. So let me lay this out a little bit, because this is big. If you're communicating to the universe by your actions and your imagination, how does the universe communicate back? And the answer is by events, by what shows up. So pay attention to the little tiny things. When you're sailing your ship, you don't always look for the island. You look for little pieces, twigs, and birds sitting on the twig, because if there's a twig in there, it came from somewhere. So that's a fun way to say, look for little tiny things. Stay awake and aware, because you'll start to notice them, because you're in conversation with the universe. I know that's getting a little metaphysical on you, but in a way, it's kind of a fun way to hold it. The universe will respond. Life will start to respond. Don't expect the big win instantly. It could happen, but just look for the little things, and you'll be astonished at how much synchronicity starts to happen. That's what happens with so many of the people that I've taught this process to. That's a phenomenal sign. It means you're on the right track. Keep doing what you're doing. So this last step, evolve your images, and I'll just add in, stay awake and aware to how life is responding to your visualizations. And when even little things that could be construed as positive, label them as positive. Good, this is a sign something's happening. Refuse and do not negate what shows up. That's like calling something in and then pushing it away. So say yes, thank you. This might be a good sign, good symbol. This is wonderful. Maybe this is a sign. Interpret it as a yes more often than no. Don't put doubt or reject what's showing up. Remember the famous quote, about hard work. It shows that, that there are lots of them. A diamond is a chunk of coal that made good under pressure. Well, you have to look at the chunk of coal, and see the diamond, and so on. Hard work, great breakthroughs, but they show up as hard work. I'm not quoting that one exactly, but you get the idea. These quotes and these sayings, but they don't do much for us. I mean, great. What's it do for you? This is the actual how-to. Remember, that's my specialty. Here's how you make those things come alive. Interpret what shows up with a yes, with a maybe. That's possible. I want to add one other special bonus here, since you've listened to the end here. You have to have either one of two things. You have to believe in the power of visualization to do amazing things, or be neutral, like it's possible. But you cannot make any of this work if you go, I don't think this is going to work, and you're doubtful, because that belief will become a self-fulfilling prophecy and wreck the whole thing, so to speak. Meaning you have to suspend your disbelief and at least feel this is possible. So I would suggest, if you don't feel that way, read some books on visualization. There are tons on Amazon and all over. Read Shakti Gawain's original classic was The Power of Visualization. And I'll always remember buying that book, and The Sanctuary and all that stuff. But read a few books to get yourself excited about, and read more details about the power of the subconscious mind, how it responds to visualization. If you like studies, I didn't quote a lot of studies. I'm about teaching you the model pattern and how to do it in an exact, precise formula so you can get faster results, cut out all the fat. But if you need more data and more proof for your left brain, we have to accommodate it sometimes. Go ahead and find it. Do the studies. Don't get too sidetracked, but you must get to the point. It is a requirement. So I feel like I've got to include this. Make sure you feel like this could make something amazing happen. The subconscious mind, you can quote your own studies or whatever, the studies you've brought your attention to, but you've got to feel like this could really do something. Or, I don't know. That's okay. I don't know. Let's see what happens. Suspend disbelief. But if you don't believe it'll work, and you hear yourself affirming or saying things like, I don't think so, it'll work, you've got to address that first, because the self-fulfilling belief. Okay? So that's the best I can give you on a few little other secrets that I use and apply. And thank you. I want to tell you, I also have a couple of special things for you coming up next. Hey, if you like things like taking your visualization to the max, your self-esteem, your feeling of capability, patterns that can optimize your performance that have been modeled and honed, and all kinds of entrepreneurial skill sets that are not always in the mainstream, and this kind of thing you like, I want to encourage you to go to alexandervanburen.com, my website. Check out my coaching program, some of the courses. This is my specialty. And I have things on self-belief, on how to create an entrepreneurial self-image, on how to create feelings of capability, worthiness, possibility, on how to overcome unconscious beliefs related to your business, and many, many more that you just don't find out there on the internet. Most of them have model patterns. So I just want to give you a green light. Step on over there, check them out. And if you have any questions, send us a quick email and use our contact form. We'd love to hear from you. If this appeals to you, be sure to download something of mine so you'll get on my email list, because I send all kinds of great free stuff to the people on my list. I will never spam you. You can opt out. Like, every email has a legitimate unsubscribe, and I want to earn the right to be in your email box. But if this is the kind of thing you liked and you listened all the way to the end, you might really like some of that stuff. So I just want to link up with you, see if we can connect. And I also want to thank you for watching this video. If you do this, I have one final request. Please comment below what happened if you started doing this visualization process. I will read them. I will comment. And thanks again. Enjoy your visualizations. Make them fun. Lay them out on a template, make sure you got it, and go for it. And remember to do it for a couple months to strongly program your subconscious mind for success. You do this, you will experience something that I can't really put into words, but it's a quantum leap. I don't know what other words. your visualization process will have stepped up. You will have raised your regimen in a way that you can use for the rest of your life. And it's my gift to you for taking the time to be here. Thanks again. See you in the next video.